Oh, let's talk about Saylor. Bitcoin yield. He made some announcements yesterday. Man, there's been a lot of people who have been like really, really horny for MicroStrategy on this channel. And I think that I'm talking about it too much. I think that every time I talk about MicroStrategy going forward, I'm going to have to counter it with something about self-custody. Because in my mind, self-custody is the only option, right? Like MicroStrategy is a good vehicle if you got debt to pay off, if you got money in the old system and in the financial system right now, you don't want to pay fees and taxes on. MicroStrategy makes sense, but for the most part, everybody should be buying Bitcoin and taking it off the exchange, take it into a wallet, setting up a device to sign your transactions, setting up a multi-signature wallet, and then setting up a multi-jurisdictional wallet. That's kind of like the main steps there. And I missed the passphrase there because that's kind of the in-between wallet and multi-signature setup is the passphrase. So let me say that again. You buy the Bitcoin, you take it off the exchange. Obviously, everybody knows that, right? I think at this point. But you put it into a wallet. That could be a wallet on your phone, like a Phoenix wallet, Moon wallet, Blue wallet, any wallet. Then you take it into a hardware device. You take it offline, cold storage. You get a cold card, you get a passport, you get a Jade. And then on top of that, that's kind of like your first steps, right? That's the first part of things here. And then you get into a passphrase, which we're going to be talking about here in about 10 minutes. Passphrase, decoy wallet. You take away your single point of failure. You don't let people know where your Bitcoin is. You got a couple different tricks up your sleeve. From there, you go to multi-signature, which means you got devices in different locations, but you got to be careful with that because you have to know people in different locations. It has to be geographically dispersed. It doesn't make sense to have 3 devices in your house. Somebody just breaks in and gets you 3 devices, they got your Bitcoin. So you have to geographically disperse it, but you have to find people in your life that you trust that you can geographically disperse it with. And then you move to a multi-jurisdictional where you have one wallet in Canada, you have one wallet in Sweden, and you have one wallet in America. So that's kind of like the full cycle of what you should be looking for with your Bitcoin security. So that's I didn't even mean for that to happen today, but that's my cold storage tip. Now I can talk about MicroStrategy. Mikkel says, Jor, have you reached out to Nico and Opti on Simply Bitcoin? For what? Just to say hi? Just to say hi? I don't know. Okay. So let's talk about this MicroStrategy now that we can. I like that rule. So Saylor, MicroStrategy says this year MicroStrategy treasury operations delivered a Bitcoin yield of 26.4%, providing a net benefit of 49,936 Bitcoin to our shareholders. This is equivalent to 157.5 Bitcoin per day acquired without the operational costs or capital investments typically associated with Bitcoin mining. Oh my God. That's music to my ears, to my soul. Just read that again. Because I mean, it's easy to see numbers and a whole bunch of fancy things going on here. But let's look at this again. This year, MicroStrategy treasury operations delivered a Bitcoin yield of 26.4%, providing a net benefit of 49,936 Bitcoin to our shareholders. This is the equivalent of 157 Bitcoin per day acquired without the operational costs or capital investments typically associated with Bitcoin mining. Pissing on miners. Yeah, I mean, he is. Peter McCormack says, explain this like I'm 5. Peter McCormack needs to get back into Bitcoin. His new podcast sucks. He was getting like 70,000 views, like he was a very net positive for Bitcoin, very net positive to Bitcoin. And he just decided, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna retire on top. Yeah, well, you know what? There's still a whole bunch of work to do here, Peter. But anyways, look at this one. Eric Weiss. MicroStrategy shareholders have 26.4 more Bitcoin per share than they did at the beginning of the year. That's what you need to look at. That's incredible. That's incredible. So what does that mean? It means basically like they are acquiring Bitcoin without diluting shares. That's the net amount, right? So they acquire these Bitcoin through taking on debt, through selling their shares. And if they have to, they issue new shares. But I don't think that they like doing that strategy because that dilutes the shareholders, right? What is MicroStrategy at today? Was it a good start to the day or was it a drop? Holy fuck, 344. I don't know what to say about this anymore. Like, we're getting close to bubble category here. Like in this year, we've gone from, it's up 400% this year to date. $275. 400% this year so far. And the bull run hasn't even really begun yet. So, people said, is this a bubble? Is this going to crash? Because that's typically what happens when things go up fast, they come down just as fast. But you have to keep in mind here that it probably will. It probably will crash, but then it'll go up because there's something real there. There's something real there that they're doing with MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. And not only are they earning a 26% yield on Bitcoin, they are going to be the number one company in the world. Nobody's going to catch MicroStrategy. So is it a bubble? Yeah. Is it going to crash? Yes. Is it going to go up again? No. Yes. It's not just going to look like a blip, come down and keep going. It's going to go up, it's going to come down, and then it's going to go back up. Just like Bitcoin. They've been calling Bitcoin a bubble for 16 years. But the part that they miss there is that there's something real there. And unlike Ponzi schemes, unlike the FTXs, unlike the NVIDIAs, there's actually something here. Jay Burr says, doesn't make sense you don't own the Bitcoin. I mean, that's part of the risk, right? Like that's part of the risk is that not only is there a one point of failure with MicroStrategy, they could lose the coins, but there's another point of failure there that says the brokerage, like if something happened, let's say in the next, because to me, and you're probably going to agree with me with this, but I don't know. To me, it seems like things are going too good right now. So, but at the same time, it's like somebody emailed me last night. Let me just read this for you because I thought it was pretty cool. So don't let me forget where I was there. We're talking about cyber attacks, but this is from Lan Ray. We talked back in March a little bit through email, but they just sent me an email last night saying, grateful. Greetings, Jor. All the gospel about Bitcoin you've been preaching since the beginning of the year is finally happening. And you mentioned all these things will happen post-summer, and here we are. I watch your YouTube videos every day and always stay positive about what you say and advise. I really can't thank you for all the education daily shared from you. Many thanks, Lan Ray. But it's funny because they're absolutely right. Like this, none of this is really surprising. Everything was expected. It still seems kind of surreal though, honestly. But we've been talking about this stuff on the channel and the people who have been here will attest to that. We talked about Trump. We talked about Trump being into Bitcoin. I was talking about Trump being into Bitcoin before he even mentioned it. Right? And it's like, it still seems too good to be true though. And that's where I was going with the cyber attack. It's like, yes, Trump got in. Nothing has happened yet. There's been no, explosions anywhere or any planes fall out of the sky. You know what I mean? It seems too good right now. MicroStrategy is humming. Bitcoin's humming. But, and so that's the one thing you have to keep in mind here is that if there was a cyber attack, you want to make sure that your assets, you're going to be able to locate them after that happens, right? And if the brokerage account is holding your MicroStrategy shares, who knows? Maybe 5 other people own those shares. With Bitcoin, you can't fudge that. With Bitcoin, you have to be transparent. With Bitcoin, if we had a cyber attack and everything went down, you'd still have that same Bitcoin as soon as you logged into your wallet once things came back on. With your share account, with your stock broker, might not be true. Probably will be. I don't know for sure, but there's a chance that they just kind of lose track of everything. It's a very centralized point of failure there. Bitcoin's not. Bitcoin's very decentralized point of failure, which means that 20,000 people around the world right now have a copy of who owns what in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ledger, the time chain in Bitcoin. 20,000 people have a copy of that scattered across the world. The brokerage or the banks, they're single points of failure. And if something happened, that information might be gone. Even if you had 100 shares of MicroStrategy, if there's a cyber attack and they all of a sudden lost access to the records, do you own them? So that's the risk there. And everybody needs to understand that there's a risk there. Trade-offs, everything's trade-offs, right? Everything's trade-offs. And that's one thing that's one of the laws of the universe that I really, truly believe in. That, the better something is, it has the equal amount of bad for you, right? MicroStrategy is going up a lot, good, but it has a lot of risk there involved, bad. Everything works that way. Hey, we got Jerry Loves Freedom. One of my new favorite guys on YouTube. Me and Jerry think very similarly. He's in America, I'm in Canada. But we share the same sentiment in a lot of ways. I like listening to Jerry. You should go check out his channel. But what does Jerry say here? I know MicroStrategy is buying 42 billion in Bitcoin over the next 3 years. About 38 million a day on average. Stupid question. Are they actually buying every day or is it in a different increment? Yeah, no, they wouldn't be buying every day. That's a really good question though, because I mean, who is looking after these trades? That's why I think guys like Howard Lutnick, that's where he comes into play here. There's a lot of people in Bitcoin that we don't know about, but are major players in this side of things. The retail side of things, we see like the CZs at Binance, the Brian Armstrongs at Coinbase, the Kathy Woods at ARK. But behind the scenes, you got NYDIG, you got Howard Lutnick, the Cantor Fitzgerald. You got these very big entities who have been pretty quiet, but they just deal with the big boys. So Saylor calls up Howard Lutnick. They're obviously buddies. Obviously, the New York crowd, the NYDIG, the New York Digital Investment Group, they're all buddies. They've been planning this forever. Saylor's part of that group. So they say, okay, I got a buyer over in Saylor. Saylor wants $1 billion worth of Bitcoin today. And obviously they can't fill that order until they have somebody who's willing to sell $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. But they might phone, Abu Dhabi. They might phone Russia. They might phone somebody in China, Korea, and say Saylor's looking for $1 billion. So they compile all these different amounts. They send it. Saylor might pay, people think that buying in bulk gets you a discount. I think that buying in bulk in Bitcoin actually costs more. And it's a little bit different for Saylor because they have to keep track of their cost base. But at the same time, there's always different stuff going on. There's always stuff happening in terms of price and stuff like that. But no, I don't think, to answer your question here, I don't think it's every day. I think it's whenever they can find a chunk of Bitcoin to buy. But it's just, it's cool to think about it in terms of $38 million a day. It just shows how, big this is going to be. You hear 42 billion and you're like, oh, that's a lot, but like 38 million a day for 3 years, that's a whole nother mind fuck there. Sorry, Mikkel, I missed you here. So I'd love to see you on their show or them on your show. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of an awkward, like I'm a very unknown figure in Bitcoin. I wouldn't even call myself a figure really. But, you know, some guys like Bitcoin, what are they? Simply Bitcoin? Guys like that, they've been around for 2 or 3 cycles. So, you know, maybe in 4 years things will be a little bit differently here, but I mean, I got to put in my time. I have to put in the work. That's what Bitcoin is. That's what represents it, right? And the people who have big channels, the people who hang out at the conferences, they've been in Bitcoin for a few cycles. So the only difference between them and me is time. So I'm in no rush. Everything takes time. It's proof of work. Proof of work.